Yo, what's up, Benton? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. What's happening?
What's good, man? Just getting up with you, man. We've talked about doing this for a little while, and now the day is here, man. Live stream podcast Sunday night on D Live. Shout out to the chat.
Yeah, man, this is badass. Thanks for having me and all that. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for doing it, man. We got to think of a name for this podcast, man. So if anyone's got any ideas, leave them in the comments. If you're watching it later on another platform, leave it in the comments.
Yeah, I'm up here at the yard at work. I usually roll out about midnight, so I'm in the truck up here at the yard. There's a bunch of big rigs out here, and I think I'm the only one here. There might be somebody asleep in one of these trucks, but I doubt it. Just cool. Chilling out.
Yeah, and I'm just in my little office, man, just ready to do it, man. It's nice to have this platform where you don't have to worry about what you're going to say, and the totalitarian censorship on YouTube's insane. You can't say anything. And it really hurts.
Yeah, it seems like it gets...
Yeah, it's like a podcast, you know, you're trying to discuss ideas, and you shouldn't be stopping to think what you're going to say every 2 seconds. It really hurts the flow of the program.
Oh, I'm not even smart enough to do that. So, I can't monitor myself in real time at the level of YouTube censorship. I just can't do it.
Right. And if anyone's new here, if you're watching this later on some other platform, Benton's website is called nightmaredystopia.com. He has a podcast. He's got one of those RSS feeds. Now, I don't know what that is. How did they do that?
Okay, well, real quick. So I listen to podcasts on my phone because I drive a truck many hours a day, and I listen to podcasts and audio books. So an RSS feed lets me use I use an app on my phone called Podcast Addict. And since I'm not in any of the databases, my podcast isn't actually searchable. They can copy and paste the link from the website from nightmaredystopia.com. They can actually copy and paste that RSS URL into their whatever they're using for a podcast app. And then all the episodes will show up just like a normal podcast, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and give them, if they're new, give them a 30-second, like, what do you talk about on your channel?
Doom, mainly Doom.
He's full doomer, full doomer Benton.
Well, I do want to say, man, like, I love my life. I've had a good life. I have a strong will to live. I like getting out of bed every day and accomplishing things. I work all the time. I like to make money. I like money, I enjoy many things, but, I don't think that I'm doomer by nature, but, when I have no choice, I cannot maintain my sanity I have to live in the reality of what's happening in what's being done to the peoples of the Western world anyway.
Yeah. And
does that make sense? I mean, sometimes I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, and I'll get to your point, what you just said in 1 second, but I just wanted to say, I like money too. Adam Carolla, call us.
Yeah, man, he's getting a little more conspiratorial.
Well, that's good. He's going to have to call us up. But what you're saying basically is the reality of the situation, that a lot of these people, and you call them delusional and in denial, that's your catchphrase. And I see it too, man. These people, they have ways to explain it away of what's happening out here. What's happening is basically you're full slave, right? You're in full communist takeover. It's already happened. It's game over. And all these people will say things like, oh, the deep state's on the ropes and stuff like that. Like, that couldn't be further from the truth if you're being honest.
Well, that's what I keep hearing is, all these different content creators, they continuously refer to whatever we want to call the power structure. Oh, they're getting desperate. And I'm like, based on what? I don't see any signs of, Alex Jones is always talking about the globalists are panicking. It's like, okay, Alex, they've been panicking for about 15 years now. Like, what does that matter? I don't understand.
Yeah. What do you think about the reality of the situation? Another thing you like to talk about, that's you were told you're American, you have all these rights and freedoms, and now you see how it was all kind of an illusion, and these people just can't come to grips with that yet, I think, or can't admit that. Because in my opinion, it's because then they would be forced to take action. So as long as they don't fully admit it to themselves, that they're slaves and they can just wait on Trump or any other external source to come and save them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even myself, I think I have probably fallen victim to that sort of notion in the past. But to use kind of one of the truther ideas, sort of against their own logic. If everything's fake and the auto hoax is in play, then that means America's fake. That means Trump's fake. That means mom and apple pie's fake. Conservatism is fake. That's as fake as everything else.
I would say, yeah, conservatism is definitely fake. Conservatism is down. They're down by 20 points with 10 seconds left in the game, and they're not even doing anything, right? You see everywhere.
Well, they're owning the libs on social media, so they're dunking on the libs. So I guess that solves the problem.
Yeah, that's all they think they need to do: dunk on the libs. And, but meanwhile, the libs, they're just going out there, even in any city. They're in Portland and everywhere else, and taking to the streets and taking action about, Kyle Rittenhouse, something that didn't even happen in their city or anything. It doesn't matter. They're nationwide, foot soldiers. So of course they're
you played a video. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, of course they're gonna be in the lead. If they're always out doing something, they're taking incremental steps to achieve their goal versus the other side, conservatism, that's not doing anything.
Yeah, it's offense. The lefties are on offense, and the people who think that they're conservatives are always on the defensive. It's how is that going to work? How is so-called conservatism going to defeat the leftist communists if the conservatives are always playing defense? I don't see it happening. But real quick, you had played a video where these bozos were out in the streets chanting about communism, like we need communism. Where are the conservatives? Why they're not in the streets chanting about the nuclear family?
Absolutely not.
Traditional family values. Yeah.
And
where's that?
What's crazy to me is that you see every Sunday these people can get together 60,000 deep and go watch a football game, right? They can go downtown and watch some blacks run around and throw a football, but they can't. They couldn't go to church, or there would be no event where they would go that deep and go hand in hand and have a good time like that. But when it's for like a sports team or something, then they can do it. That's the only time. Just think of the difference the world would be in if every Sunday 60,000 people met downtown of each city for a church service or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't want to be too critical either, although I am critical by nature. But I guess the problem I have is that I talk to all these people. I'm here in MAGA country, and I guess you are now as well. And it's like they think that they're doing what needs to be done to preserve, the old way of life, which, we just talked about probably never even existed in the first place. But it's just a bunch of talk. And, that's what I talk about as far as delusional and in denial. Like, I don't want to face the reality of what's happening, but I'm not going to be able to maintain my sanity. And then, what do we see now? The majority of adult Americans are literally mentally ill at the level of being on mood-altering pharmaceutical drugs, and that does include the people in this part of the country, in the South.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're new to the channel, maybe you're watching this later. I born and raised in Minnesota, lived there my whole life, and now I moved south to a Trump state, and one of my first interactions with someone here was I bought a dryer off a guy on Craigslist, and he was just kind of asking me what I do and stuff, and I told him, hey man, I quit my job because I can't wear this mask anymore. I had to opt out of COVID, like I can't do it. And the guy's like, yeah, I would never take the shot and everything. And I got to talking to him. He was pretty cool. And he ended the conversation with, well, they had to do this. They had to do something to get Trump out of office. so the whole coronavirus, the whole world went into lockdown and everything. It was just to get Trump down. That's what these people really think.
Oh, yeah. I've been hearing that lately as well. But then also something else I've been trying to stress to people is, Trump, he doesn't get a pass because of COVID. It's like people want to talk about that things were better when Trump was president. That's not true. Maybe I know the economy improved when he was first became president, but the fact is the country was in complete shambles when he left office, and that's on him as far as I'm concerned. Trump allowed the country to shut down, and I drive a truck, man. I was driving all around the country. Nobody did anything for about 3 weeks. I could just drive right through any major city in this whole country, and there was barely a car on the road. Trump let that happen, and these people want to just give him a pass like he didn't have a choice, to shut down the country. Now we understand. Well, and real quick, we understand that he's controlled and that he's not up to him. I'm just talking about in the ways that they think. If he's the big hero 100%. Savior, that's on him.
He didn't do anything, like, to go with what you said. No one did anything. I lived right off a very busy, like, interstate, and so at night, it was still pretty loud because there's still a lot of cars going by and everything. But like you said, for about 3 weeks it was dead silent. There was no one on the road at all, and these people always forget to, for whatever reason, to blame Trump for the Operation Warp Speed. They hate the vaccine, and that, like I said, the guy I met up, he said, "I'll never take that vaccine," and it was all done to take down Trump, but Trump's the one that brought it out. Like, why do they forget that part of it?
That's a deep topic. Man, it's the mind control. It's got to be the mind control. That's what else could it be?
Yeah, it has to be. It's like a super refined mind control, right? Then there has to be more to it than just the propaganda that they say on TV. I would think there's other, like, low frequency waves or something, that's altering these people's thoughts, because the way you see it play out, it's uncanny, like how they are able to Pied Piper these people.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. When you've talked about before that it's the mass kind of goes in waves, it's like I think you've talked about it's like a download. It's like they all get the download, and then you talked about how the mask, it changed, the actual physical form of the mask has changed over time, and it's like they all kind of switch. And when I say they, I guess I should be more specific. What we might refer to as an NPC, or just your average, member of the public, who, by the way, they are de facto insane. I mean, these are literal crazy people, by the way. It's 85% plus at this point.
Yeah, I would say even higher.
Yeah, I'm trying to be conservative. Yeah, I'm trying to be, trying to err on the side of caution there. But so this is kind of what I mean about full doomer. It's like, I understand, I think I can sort of view things from the audience's perspective. Like, who wants to listen to this over and over? But at the same time, I believe strongly that when you have taboo topics that are, not supposed to be discussed, and this gets kind of ties into the YouTube censorship, I think that makes people more hungry to hear it. As far as, the people in the truth community, if that's even a thing, the you can't handle the truthers. I think it makes the message is even more powerful. Like, really, we're just talking about kind of basic shit, but you don't really hear it talked about.
Yeah, it's very basic, man. Like, ever since this thing started, they're like shutting down and demonizing anyone that's even questioned it, even their own like minions on the world stage, even if that's all part of like a script. Like, for whatever reason, I was kind of researching Dr. Oz last night. Like, I don't really know that much about him, and I went down this rabbit hole looking up about him. But even apparently he was like, him and Dr. Phil came under attack because they've kind of questioned some of the lockdowns or anything. So they use these puppets to make it like, oh, you're gonna basically lose your job. You're gonna be canceled, if you even question this. And then it said, or along the same lines was it the girl that played Blossom? I think it was her. That was.
Oh yeah.
She was a host of Jeopardy, and it was like all of a sudden, like, the mob was demanding it was canceled because she advocated for like some, like, home remedies or something like that. You know what I mean? Like homeopathic type stuff. I'm like, they don't want you on anything except for that mainstream diet of news, like the ministry of propaganda, and then the pharmaceuticals. They want those pharmaceuticals in you so bad.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't believe in any of it. I don't take anything as far
Oh,
as that
hell
goes.
no.
Alcohol, that's alcohol. You know, yeah, I did manage to sober up in time to do this live stream. That whole Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz thing, Dr. Drew got swept up in that also. And in fact, that was one of the first things I used to show my mom what was going on. Is I showed her how Dr. Phil had to go on TV and apologize. And she was kind of confused about the whole thing. I said, he's a business. I say he makes however many million a year. So he ain't got a choice. When the mob says, hey buddy, you have to capitulate, you have to go and tell everybody that you were mistaken, it's because he's a business. And same thing with Dr. Drew. He sits there next to Adam Carolla. They do a podcast, and Adam Carolla says all this stuff about the wokeism and the how everybody has to bow down to the critical race theory. And Dr. Drew just sits there and doesn't say anything because he doesn't want to get canceled. But then Adam Carolla, since he runs his own shit, they can't really cancel him. And I think that's what's important is, and I know that you're on YouTube, but I think the more that people can find ways to speak freely, I think that's very important to, because I don't want to hear from somebody when I know that they're not allowed to give me their true opinion. I can't deal with it.
Right, and how do you think it's gotten this far this fast? Like the people, as far as like society as a whole, not just the creators, I think like the people just, it's known that there's this kind of censorship on YouTube and people are okay with it. How do you think it got that way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they accept it. Oh, it's a lack of character, which you've talked about. That they lack character. They think they believe in certain things that they don't actually act upon. And look, myself included. There's times when I fall victim to things like that. But overall, I would like to think that, if we watch somebody, we can determine what they believe. And you can't tell me that these people are conservatives and they're allowing literal people that march in San Francisco pride parades to determine what they're allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say. Like that doesn't even make sense to me. I can't process that.
Yeah, and the same thing I kind of showed on a live stream last night, where it's like the Black Lives Matter, or even I went to one of those protests before, and it's like mostly white people. And last night for the Kyle Rittenhouse protests, it's like some black people, but it was like mostly white people. And I think that's a strange phenomenon to me, that you have these like white people out there basically protesting against white supremacy, which basically, according to the liberals and everything, if you're just white, you're a white supremacist, and they get these people to believe in that.
Oh yeah, it's well, I think a lot of those people hate themselves. Number one,
that's absolutely what it is.
Yeah. Well, and if you just physically look at them, I'm not necessarily some prize out here, but if I looked like some of these people, I probably would hate myself too.
I think that's always really interesting to think about, like the physical manifestation of the people. You can see it on them. You can see that they're dejected. They don't take care of their body, their hygiene or anything like that. And they're just like, when you're out and about in public, you can size these people up instantly and know kind of where they are in their thoughts, their beliefs.
Yeah, I think so. And then, they can take a handful of pills every day and then, feel okay, I guess. Whereas I feel pretty good most of the time, just, living my normal life. I couldn't imagine what it would feel like to be some of these people, like not on the Prozac or whatever they're taking.
They put me on Prozac once a long time ago, and I hated it. I took it just for like a little bit, and I absolutely hated it.
Yeah, that's no way to live.
No, yeah, it just felt really like, I felt really like numb and kind of like warm. And I was like, yeah, I do not like this at all. I'd rather be stoned back then, I haven't smoked in a long time, actually. I haven't drank either. I've been so sober the last, 6 months.
Well, good for you, man.
Yeah, I feel
That's
really
awesome.
clear-headed and everything. And it's like, I keep thinking, it's like, man, I could go for a toke or something, But then I think like, man, when I'm not thinking about it, I'm like, wow, I feel so great and clear-headed. So I don't want to lose that. And I know myself too, if I start drinking and smoking, I'll just do it a lot.
Oh yeah, that's how I am, obviously. although they don't let me smoke because of my job. So, but I can drink all the booze I want as long as I'm sober by the time, when it's time to drive the truck.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Funny how that works.
Right.
Yeah, but I can't smoke. It shows up in your urine for so long. I can't really smoke at all. They'll random me anytime they want. But I've chosen this, so I don't want to complain about it. And I make decent money, so that helps.
I just want to say shout out to the chat. I don't know how many are in here. I don't know how to tell on DLive. Oh, I think it says there's 88 people. Is that real? That's a lot.
Dude, this thing, I saw the anticipation was building, I noticed.
That's a lot of people. Man, shout out. And you want to kind of switch gears? Oh, Krakow shouted us out. Yeah, shout out to Krakow. I wanted to kind of get to these in the chat here. Ralph Lorino.
Go for it.
Left us a couple of things he said he wanted to hear us discuss.
Awesome.
So there's 3 of them, man, and I think they're really deep. And if you guys have ever heard, I know Benton and myself, we've both done podcasts with Ralph Lorino. He's a really knowledgeable guy, and he's really well versed in the Vedas and Hinduism and that kind of stuff, and much more too. But
absolutely, yeah.
His question, or he wanted us to touch on these 3 things, so I'll go one at a time here, and then I'll read it, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll go to the next one. The first one says, I would like to see you guys discuss this passage from the Vedas. Human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by gigantic industrial enterprises. The gigantic industrial enterprises are products of a godless civilization, and they cause the destruction of the noble aims of human life. The more we go on increasing such troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of the human being, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of the people in general, although only a few can live lavishly by exploitation. And there's much more too, but that's a lot to unpack right there. So kind of on the... You want me to keep going, or do you want to touch on that at all?
Whatever you want to do, man. That's pretty good stuff there.
Yeah. I can just say, like just from that first part, just kind of break it up, that's how I felt I worked the same job at a club warehouse for 13 years that I just quit, and then kind of packed my life and moved across the country, man. I quit the job, and exactly what it says. It's like sucking the soul out of me. I hated going there. There was like definitely I don't want to say demonic energy, but I don't know another way to say it. Like when you go into the building in the morning, there's like a dark energy for sure that exists in the building, and I just hated going there. And it got to the point where, 13 years where it's like I get what I started to call the dreads before I would go to work the next day, where I couldn't even sleep because it's like getting time to be bedtime, and I would just get this feeling that I called the dreads. It's like, because I know I got to get up so early and go into that place again. So I'm glad I quit. I'm kind of worried about what I'm going to do for money, but I can see that it's just like, it's just a meat grinder, right? It just eats these people up and spits them out. And these people, when they're in it, they think they are so like irreplaceable cogs of the wheel, but shout out to Nino Brown. Like Nino Brown always says, like, your job would replace you before your obituary hits the newspaper if you died.
Boy, that's the truth. I think this kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier about the taboo topics. I feel like, somebody said something about men leading lives of quiet desperation. It's like the majority of people, I think that what you just described it's within people, but then it's buried, it's pushed down, it's suppressed, and we don't talk about it. So I do think it's important that you're able to verbalize that, and then to just realize that life. Is it really worth continuing to do something that you hate in order to receive some Federal Reserve notes? I don't think so. But easy for me to say. I'm just by myself. I don't have any real responsibilities other than to myself and the community. So I get to do whatever I want. So I can't really tell other people how they should live. But I do think it's important, and I understand that you're saying that about, you're worried about, there's some concern about how you're going to make money. But I think you understand that there's other ways to make money. Than going to a corporation and punching a clock every day.
Yeah, it was just I couldn't do it anymore. It got to the point where think about it. 13 years and 3 kids and a family and everything, and I just would rather leave and worry about it than to go in one more day. That's how bad it is. And it's a leap of faith too. I believe that some door will open, for me. I always talk about my first day that I started that job I was there for 13 years, but the same day I started the job was the same day that I got divorced from my first wife. And
okay.
It's like one door closes, another door opens. So I just did it too, as it's kind of a leap of faith for myself, to make sure I feel like I almost feel like I was kind of, called out of there. It's like I just vibrated out of the job and out of the state and everything I was doing, and I feel like kind of I'm called to do something else right now. And even though I don't know exactly what it is, like I have zero regrets as of right now. Ask me another year when I'm in a debtor's prison or something. Ask me then.
Well, you can go back and work for a corporation if you need to.
Yeah, that's what but they want you. They're gonna want you to take the juice, man. They are. Right now, the one I was
that's
at
a good
doesn't not
point,
yet,
yeah.
but by that time they will. At the same time, at the one I was at least for right now, it was all kind of on the honor system. You could just say you had it, and I think it was even kind of like a wink. They knew you didn't have it, but they weren't gonna like investigate it or anything. But that's gonna change.
See, this is back to what I was talking about with character and principles. Like, now I got to be a fake person out here pretending to go along with some horse shit, and I'm gonna, get some fucking fake vax papers. Like, what, what's that doing to my, the soul tokens or whatever they call it? What? There has to be some impact on me spiritually for going out here and being some kind of fake person. Now, if I had to, if it was like, well, I have to fake this or my kid doesn't eat, that's something different. But, I'm not personally in that situation. See, I'm delusional. See how quick I'm like, oh, well, you can just go work for the corporation. It's like, no, not necessarily. There's
worst case scenario is you could, I guess, but
for how long?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be the same. Yeah. It's like going back to an ex-wife or something. Like, why would you do that if it didn't work the first time?
Well, and then, once you determine that it's an abusive relationship, my thing is, once I know I'm being abused, if I continue to allow that to happen, it's like I'm abusing myself. And I can't abuse myself and look in the mirror every day. I have to have some modicum of self-respect. But to get back to what Ralph was talking about, I think that's a good way to describe just this this system that we're living under. And I think he mentioned atheism at a certain point, and it's absence of God is what I put it down to. And then, if you look at the Mark Passio idea of just like the less moral society becomes, the more enslaved the people are, to paraphrase some of his ideas.
Yeah, I've watched countless hours of Mark Passio, and then you said it perfect. That's how he says it, like morality and freedom are intertwined, hand in hand, and as one goes up, the other goes down, basically. And that's where we're at, yeah, right? Like America, or not just America, like society or the world really kind of has turned its back on God, and then look what happens. It's a shit show.
Yeah, yeah.
Fucking disaster out here, man. Let me keep
unmitigated disaster.
I'm going to keep reading what Ralph, this is still a continuation of that first part. He says is a passage from the Vedas. I'll read the rest of it here. It says, the natural gifts such as grains and vegetables, fruits, rivers, the hills of the jewels and minerals, and the seas full of pearls are supplied by the order of the Supreme. And as he desires, material nature produces them in abundance or restricts them at times. The natural law is that the human being may take advantage of these godly gifts by nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without being captivated by the exploitive motive of lording it over material nature. The more we attempt to exploit material nature according to our whims of enjoyment, the more we shall become entrapped by the reaction of such exploitive attempts. If we have sufficient grains, fruits, vegetables, and herbs, then what is the necessity of running a slaughterhouse and killing poor animals? A man need not kill an animal if he has sufficient grains and vegetables to eat. The flow of the flow of river waters fertilizes the fields, and there is more than what we need. Minerals are produced in the hills and the jewels in the ocean. If the human civilization has sufficient grains, minerals, jewels, water, milk, etc., then why should it hanker after terrible industrial enterprises at the cost of some labor of unfortunate men? But all these natural gifts are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. What we need, therefore, is to be obedient to the laws of the Lord and achieve the perfection of human life by devotional service. And so I know there's some truthers in there that'll get triggered and say, eating meat, we have to eat meat. I don't really read that and read that what that passage is about. To me, it seems more like what Ralph, we were having a chat conversation with him the other night, through text, you and I, and basically Ralph was asking us, is anything allowed to happen that is outside the will of God? Even these so-called bad things that we think that I just said, society's a shit show and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I believe, we may not understand it. And I always tie it back to the book of Job, like what, that whole story. That, according to the Bible, and I'm not saying that anybody should or should not believe the Bible. That's, these are stories that have survived for whatever reason. But, in the context of the Bible, that, the Creator just offered Job up to the destroyer. Said, here you go, have at him. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of us nowadays. I really see it that way, whether I'm right or wrong. That's, how I view it. So I would say that, yeah, it is within God's will, even if we don't understand it necessarily. That's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah, and I think it ultimately comes down to are you a determinist? Is everything predetermined and you're just living your life like a needle on a record player to a predetermined thing? Or do you truly have free will? That's what it seems like. That's what all these tests are for us, to see if we have free will. I believe we have free will.
Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah.
I could, you could do anything anytime. You could walk up and, smack a person in a public, some stranger. You could do any of these things, but you know better. Or you should know better, right?
Yeah, but I think that the idea of free will ties in with what we're seeing now, which is, I'm out here in MAGA country, and these people get told what to do, and most of them do as they're told. So what good is it having so-called free will if I just do what other human beings tell me to do? Myself, I did not come to whatever this realm is in order to be bossed around by my fellow human beings. Just not. I'm not here for that.
Yeah. So you like that new Kid Rock song?
Oh, I saw you posted that.
Did you watch it?
Listen to that. Yeah.
Oh, it was pretty.
No,
crazy.
I need to check that out. Yeah.
It was just basically.
What's that all about?
Like the hook was like, nobody can tell me what to do. And it was like some boomer rock. But it's true though, right? Like, just like you said, like, or let me go back to what I said earlier. Is like, I just feel like I have something else to do. I'm not supposed to be just punching a clock and walking into that same building every day. 13 years was more than enough, way more than enough. And I just I bet my whole life on it. You know what I mean? I have enough money to live for about a year. And if I don't figure something out in the meantime, then I'm screwed. So
I bet you're going to make way more money than you made before.
Well, at least I won't hate my life. I'm not going to hate. Yeah. I'm not going to get what I call the dreads. I don't know what that it really is, what I was feeling. I'm sure there's some psychological term for it, but I won't get that every night. And yeah, it just feels like that's what it's talking about here by devotional service. As long as you're doing something that's going to benefit other people, like genuinely, I think the creator, whatever you believe in. If you're New Age, they'll say that the universe, well, whatever you want to call it, is gonna provide a door for you. You still got to make the choice though and go through the door.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's as much as I'm a doomer, this I do have a lot of hope, believe it or not. I am optimistic in certain ways. I'm just not optimistic at the level of these brain dead dum-dums getting their, as JL would say, getting their act together. Individually it's possible, but it's just when you lump all these people together and they're literally insane. I think that's a mistake on the part of a lot of the so-called truthers wanting to run around and talking about waking people up. It's like, what? No, it's not going to happen.
You're never...
not on a massive scale, anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. Real quick, there's over 100 people in here. That's pretty good for D-Live, man. So shout out to everyone. But really funny is when I was moving down south here, I don't really remember exactly where I was. One of these southern states I drove through, there was a billboard and it showed like all these zombies on it. And it said, "All will proclaim the name of the Lord is Jesus, even the Democrats." I was dead when I saw that. I thought that was so funny. But even these people down here, they think one day that the Dems, they're just gonna wake up, and I mean maybe they will, right? I mean, we could only hope, but I don't see that happening, man.
No, and it seems like every day I meet a new vaccinated conservative. I mean, whatever conservative means.
Oxymoron.
And I don't ask people if they're vaccinated. They just tell me, like, "Oh well, I took it." I'm like, "What?" Okay. And then I ask sometimes. I'm like, "Well, are you gonna keep taking? Are you gonna continue to get these injections?" And they always say, "Oh no, I'm not gonna keep taking them." But I'm thinking,
yeah, they will.
I mean, how's that gonna work? Of course they will. Yeah. Again, delusional and in denial. But it's not my job to settle their hash or whatever. But I guess you're in a little bit of culture shock moving down south.
I love it so far. I mean, I was in the heart of communism, basically. Like, you guys, especially growing up in Minnesota, and see how it changed, like from when I was a kid and to how it is now. And it's bad, man. It's like literally George Floyd is like a saint there. And then all the years they bust in, and all these people for Section 8 housing. I had a friend that had the newspaper clippings from the 80s of how these like slumlords would bus in families from Chicago in the 80s to fill these Section 8 houses, and the state was giving them money for that. And just to change the demographics of it. And then they flew in the Somalians all settled there. It's like the number one Somalians. I think for a while it was even the number one gays, even over San Francisco, I think. Or at least it was up there. And now I think Atlanta's number one, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, I mean, for a while you got everything there just kind of went off the rails bad. So it's pretty crazy to see that change over my life, and then to come down here and it's almost like going backwards in time, like to where it's closer to what I remember when I was a kid, 30 years ago, 35 years ago or something. Not quite. I mean, there's still some of that stuff down here, but it's not rampant like it is up there. And it's different too, because we're here, it's like people are kind of in their own little sections, where up there it's like,
oh really? Kind of segregated?
Yeah, and up there it's like in every single neighborhood there's like a Section 8 house, I think, by law or whatever. There's like, bring them into every neighborhood, and it's like that's the whole thing we see them with the Rittenhouse trial and everything. It's like these like, not necessarily any race of people or anything, but like these poor people are the guard dogs of these like rich elite, basically, and that they have them programmed to riot or like at least protest on these types of things like Rittenhouse, and they're gonna equate that to you in their mind. It was just time for me to get out, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I think that's very important to not be in those areas, if at all possible. Especially, look, going doomer again. I mean, I don't, they're talking about the dark winter. I think this situation is going to degenerate rapidly in the coming months. That's my prediction, anyway.
What do you want to expand on that? What do you mean?
Well, just everything we're hearing about in the news. The idea of the supply chain problems, and then, it's been the idea of food shortages has already been floated out there for quite some time, and I just think the more that people are not in a big city, I think it's gonna be better for them, as far as the more that society collapses, and I think it has collapsed in many ways. Did they ever come pick your pot up, by the way?
Oh yeah, many days later, my life became calling them every day. I had a pod moving container, and I would call them every day. The first I had a 1 week appointment, and they never called. They just ghosted me. I called them every day, and every day they said, "Yeah, we're gonna handle it today." That was my life. Is you called them and waited on hold for an hour, and then they said, "Okay, we're gonna handle it today." I talked to a driver, and then nothing. But yeah, it's gone now finally. Yeah. And then so I went online too, and I read like the reviews of pods, and everyone has the same or worse problems even than me. It sounds like. And that goes right with what you're saying. Society is breaking down. These people can't even run a business, which should be you drop off a container and pick it up. Like, how much easier could it be, in theory?
Well, the number one goal. Well, yeah, of course, but the number one goal when I'm dumb enough to actually try to interface with these systems, the number one goal of these various systems is to get me to go away. That's the main motivation. What can the system do to me so that I'll just give up? So that's what I do now. Like I had this virtual gift card that I bought with Bitcoin because I'd won a little bit of money playing poker, and somebody just stole like $130 off of it. It's just not even worth my time. Not that I'm rich, but I'm not going to go through the time and the aggravation to try to get my $130 back. I'm just going to drive the truck and make another $130.
Yeah, I feel you. Like the amount of time I spent trying to call these people and get a hold of them was not. I mean, I physically needed that thing gone. Otherwise, I would have just been like, "Fuck it."
Well, I'm a little agitated and high strung in the best of times. Like I'm gonna want to, punch the wall at a certain point, or like cuss. I'm not gonna cuss anybody out, but I'm gonna want to.
Yeah, that's how I was. I want to, but like, what is that gonna accomplish? It's
yeah.
And what's caused that society to break down? What do you think is the cause of that? Just again, what we're talking about here, just people.
I don't know, man. That may be above my pay grade, but I do think, as far as the Western countries, and I only have experience in America, but I think everything's being destroyed for the Build Back Better, that's the communism, which it's already de facto communism, but then I don't know that that's going to be the end goal, but I do think there is going to be some phase of just these unelected bureaucrats or the people who we think we voted for are just going to be running everything, and the people are not going to have any say in what happens. And really, if you look at it, what say do I have in what happens anyway? As far as what the government does, or the local school district, what they do. Now, I understand that there's some people have managed to rise up and get their school district to get rid of the mask mandate or whatever, but just the fact that people even accepted that in the first place, it's all being destroyed in the idea of the nuclear family, and a man who was born a man and a woman who was born a woman, actually getting together and producing a new life. What more powerful symbol of God is there? And that cannot be allowed to persist, in the present system that we're in, which I do believe is a literal hell, by the way. But now I've been called a doomer so much, I do have to check myself. I choose to check myself and not go full doomer too often. But yeah, literal hell. We're in hell. There's your answer.
It's not that bad to say that. I hear a lot of people say that this realm we're in, is a physical hell or whatever. Like it could only get better, right?
I don't know, man. I
wouldn't think so.
I don't even want to speculate.
I mean, how could it get worse? Maybe we will see it worse, though. Do you foresee any kind of basically war on America's soil to help the Build Back Better and help, that they want to do all this new infrastructure and everything? What a better way to tear everything down than some kind of civil war would be my guess. And
yeah, that's EBT's territory, really. I don't really know enough about that to say.
He's in the chat. Leave a comment, EBT. But it seems like that's what they're doing with all these psychological operations, is to poke the bear and to get you. They want you guys to fight it out in the streets. They want to tear down all these old streets and buildings, and they want to put up all new everything, Internet of Things. That's what I think.
Yeah. So, if that's the agenda, and we've seen that the agenda has progressed to where it is now, like logically, I'm just like, why wouldn't the agenda continue to progress to where, and we've seen the patterns as far as the, using the blockchain technology and then the social credit score, to where, and I know you've talked about this, to where, our actual monitoring of, are we social distancing and are we wearing a mask and actually receiving a credit score based on that, which I think probably they have that in some countries, I'm assuming. And then also tying that in with blockchain to where, if once the cash is gone, if I don't act right, how will I have access to currency, more or less, if I said that correctly? That's my understanding of what's going on anyway.
There was a guy, I think his name was Aaron Russo. Any of the old-time conspiracy heads will recognize that name. And he had a story that he told, years ago. And he said that he was friends with one of these, like, Rockefeller or Rothschilds or something. And then he said they basically told him, hey, we want to get all these people on digital money, so that way if they protest or don't do something we like, we can just shut them off and they can't eat. And supposedly he was killed. And I mean, who knows if any of that stuff is true, but at the very least, he planted those seeds and kind of revealed those plans however many years ago that was. I believe it might have been like the late 90s even.
Yeah, I think so. I remember that, actually. I remember Alex Jones was all the time publicizing that stuff for a period of time anyway.
Yeah, and what a better way to get these people to... You already see it now, that these people fall in line with the mask and the jab because they say, well, I got to eat. So what? But when you do that,
or I got kids.
It's the slippery slope. So when you do that, what's next? Next, they're going to say, nah, you got to do this.
Yeah, it never stops. But, the reasons why people go along with it, that continues to persist. It's like, oh, I've got kids. It's like, yeah, and I'm pretty sure, if the creator entrusted someone with an innocent child who's not, who can't really, they're not adults, man. They need to be protected. So, I mean, you were asking earlier, what I see is that what I think is going to happen is society is going to continue to allow these kids to be abused more and more. And then, we just deserve what we get at that point. I mean, that's how I look at it. I got no tolerance for these people who letting this stuff happen to kids, man. And I don't even have kids. It just burns me up, man, when I see like the school bus goes by and the kids got masks on. I can't hardly tolerate it.
Sick.
So I don't know how how are the parents putting up with it. I don't get it.
It's sick. I see them at the store and they'll have the parent will be unmasked and they'll have a little like 3-4-year-old in a mask, and I'm like, I just want to like say something. Maybe I should say something. I don't know, man. But what is me saying something? They're never gonna say, oh, you know what? That guy was right. Take your mask off, little Susie. That's never ever gonna happen.
No,
there was 2 more things Ralph had, but I wanted to kind of skip to the last thing he had here because it goes with what we're talking about right now. So this is Ralph Florino's own words here. He says, the point is we can talk COVID and other stuff, but at some point we need to address the root cause of the problems. My proposition is that he uses these big words, man. I don't know if I'm going to get through this. He says, my proposition is that mechanistic, soulless, nihilistic, hedonistic, secular atheism has led us to this point and has tainted every area of our lives, including art, science, religion, education, family, relationships, etc. The external trappings of modern life are like a glaring effulgence that hides the rot and decay. We need to see beyond the blinding light of modern misdirected civilization and try to get at the root causes. Powerful stuff.
Yeah,
man.
amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And, there's nothing I can do to improve upon that language. But for me as an individual, what's important to realize is I can only accomplish any of those things within myself. I can't do nothing about anybody else. So if I really believe those, if I think I believe those ideas, I think psychologically most people have a tendency to externalize. They're like, okay, let's go out here externally into the world and apply these ideas, where really I only have power internally with respect to myself. I can do almost nothing about any of those things externally.
Absolutely. And yeah, Ralph hits the nail on the head. I think it's to me, this is way more interesting talking about, the root cause of all this, like he says, or where did people go wrong in their soul searching and everything. That's way more interesting to me than not to call out any other channel or anything, but let's just say like High Impact Flicks, who I still watch, so I don't mean anything bad or no disrespect, but he kind of follows, the story of the day. You got to follow these trending stories of the day, and that's how you get the views and stuff, and I totally get it. But all these stories of the day, none of that interests me at all. Like, I literally don't even look at it anymore. I feel like at the same time, like I said, I vibrated out of Minnesota in my job. I feel like I kind of vibrated out of all the like truther and the breadcrumbs and all that. I really don't care, but the psychology of it is very interesting to me.
Oh yeah, myself as well. Now I talk to people a lot, probably because I was raised in a cult that literally trained me from a toddler to go talk to people. So, I guess I haven't completely deprogrammed yet. So in some way, I do kind of need to know what's going on, I feel like. And like with my mom, I was able to talk to her to the point where when she did go to the hospital, that she said, no, I'm not going to go on that ventilator. And I heard, she wouldn't tell me this, but I overheard her say that it was because of me. So, there can be some sort of impact from understanding some of this information, but to wallow in it, I think that's the problem for some people. When they really are just, wallowing in the news of the day, which I see in the so-called conservatives, but they just go, on Twitter or whatever and own the libs, and then everything's fine.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's just self-serving. If you want to just chase these like stories of the day, what are you really doing it for? Like, I get it if you have, if you have a family to feed, that's how you get the views. And listen, you know how easy it would be to put out a YouTube channel and talk about Kyle Rittenhouse every day and, give your take on it and make money. I think it'd be pretty, I think it'd be pretty easy, to be honest, if you wanted to play that role. But that's not me. So
me either.
This is way more interesting to me.
Yeah. So what do you see for the just for the audience? The plan is to do this every week. I guess at this time we didn't really pick an actual recurring time yet. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, sometime around this time, late night, Sunday night would work for me for sure. Really, any time would work for me. I'm wide open right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, with my work schedule, this is probably would be better for me starting about the time we started.
Okay.
And I'm in the process of getting some new equipment where my audio will sound a little better in the near future, hopefully.
And let me run it back just a little bit. And do you want to tell the people, in case, I see the chat, it's the same names right now in the live stream chat, but if someone's watching this later, maybe on a replay, do you want to tell them real quick about you said you grew up in like a mind control cult?
Oh yeah, the Jehovah's Witnesses. And now what happens is when I tell people that it's a mind control cult, I get people push back on me because they're like, oh, well, they're so nice. I'm like, yeah, that's the whole point. They come across as being nice in order to try to get new people into the cult. But yeah, I never believed in that horse shit. But excuse my language. I know you're trying to stop swearing, but I was raised up in it, and I was a child. Therefore, I had no choice but to attend the Kingdom Hall, and they trained me in public speaking, and they trained me how to go talk to strangers about religion. So that was my upbringing anyway. Yep,
Do
Jehovah's
you think
Witnesses.
that helped you then in the end?
Oh yeah, in some ways, yeah, absolutely.
To help
in
you
certain ways.
deprogram?
Plus, well, in order to actually function in society, I found it necessary to deprogram myself. And I know actually Ralph kind of gets triggered by the idea of deprogramming because it's been forced on a lot of people in the past. Nobody forced me to do this. This is what I chose to do. I chose to, remove that programming. Although some of it, I don't think I'll ever be able to get rid of it. But so it's very natural for me to just talk to strangers. So I do a lot of it. And that's how I keep meeting all these vaccinated conservatives. Like at my job, none of the people that I interact with on a regular basis, we don't talk about any of this stuff. Nobody brings it up, but it seems like strangers, for whatever reason, they like to tell me things. But it's, and I can tell when I'm not just out here forcing myself on people. I'm pretty good at, I can tell when somebody doesn't want to be approached or doesn't want to be spoken to, and I just leave them alone.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah. But I don't know. I know I kind of rambled off there at the end, so I'll let you put the train back on the tracks, if you don't mind.
No, it was good. Do you wanna wrap it up, or do you have more time? Or I think we're at a good stopping point. We're at 1 hour.
Yeah. I know you like to do about an hour. I mean, I'll just talk and talk and talk. But yeah, I think that's good for the first one, and then I think as much as we can keep to about the same time. I think, but not, strict to the minute necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're two guys living lives, so I doubt it's not like we're punching a clock and we got to be there, but around this time every Sunday night on D Live for now, maybe later something else, but D Live works pretty good, I think.
Oh yeah, and I can go earlier. I just need to know ahead of time because I go to sleep and then I wake up, and I go into work. I usually start work at like midnight typically.
Okay.
So as long as I know ahead of time about what time, then I can adjust my sleep schedule.
Okay, and like you said, man, if we can crank these out and get a nice little catalog going, man. If there's some night we can't do it, maybe we can play like a best of clips or something. That'd be nice, and try to keep it kind of professional and on a schedule. I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
And then
Adam maybe figure out a way to.
Adam Carolla's gonna call us then.
He should, man.
He will. We'll just run up in his studio. We'll just go up in there someday.
We have to wait for him to move out of California, though.
Oh yeah, he ain't gonna get nothing done in California.
He's talking about it. He's gonna move out of there.
He'll do it. Yeah, you can't. You can't
get out of school.
All right, man. Well, everyone here, I'll go follow Benton. Plug the RSS feed into your Podcast Maniac or whatever he called it. What did you call it? What was it called?
The one I use on Android is called Podcast Addict. There's several. That's the one I like. Yeah. That's the one I like.
Yeah, that's on nightmaredystopia.com, and you can go to chalkbodyoutline.com, get all my links. Ben's link is there and everything. EBT's link is there. All the whole cast of characters. So look for us here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And if you got a name for the show, we'll probably be going into these similar types of topics, not necessarily the news of the day. So anyone's got a suggestion for the name of the show, leave a comment anywhere you're watching this. All right, Benton, thank you and peace out.